Hello students, welcome to another masterclass in English A-level literature with a focus on flipped learning. So the focus of our topic today is understanding the development of American literature. The unit that we're going to focus is H472 of the OCR English Literature A-level specification. So the concept really that we're going to be exploring is looking at the development of American literature over the time. So in political and historical terms, 1880 marks the end of the period of the consolidation of the United States of America. The capture of Geronimo, leader of the Apaches in 1885, marked the end of the Indian Wars. The United States of America became a unitary state with English as its official language and white Europeans as the dominant racial group. Earlier in 1865, the defeat of the Southern Confederates by the Northern Yankees, though it brought an end to the slave-owning patrician society of the South as a political reality, it increased the cultural differences between North and South, which persisted long afterwards. Following America's war with Spain at the end of the 19th century and its failed interventions in the Mexican Revolution, American politicians avoided involvement in international politics. At the outbreak of World War I, however, this neutrality was challenged by recent European immigrants, and America finally entered the war in 1917. Ironically, the imposition of prohibition in 1920, based as it was upon religious and moral imperatives, led to an increase in organized crime on an unprecedented scale. The Wall Street crash in 1929 and the depression that followed caused many Americans to question their faith in the unfettered capitalism they believed had made the country great. The endurance of white supremacy organizations, dominant in various guises since before the Civil War, exposed the fact that the Declaration's assertion that all men are created equal excluded black people. Outrage at the lynchings of black people in the years leading up to and beyond 1940 was registered in popular culture, notably through the publication of Abel Meeropol's poem Strange Fruit. Meeropol's words and the atrocities they exposed were immortalized by Billie Holiday, who recorded and performed her version in New York venues, including Madison Square Gardens. America became a subject for literature after the Revolutionary War, when writers began the exploration of themes and motifs distinctly American. Continuing the Puritan belief in America as the New Eden, writers stressed the millennial nature of settlement and progress. Each milestone in improvement and enlargement marked a national movement towards spiritually sanctioned political dominion. Geographic, industrial, and social changes found justification in America's mythic vision of itself independent of England and free of European hierarchy. A complex and often contradictory ethos emerged based on tensions in American dualities: Calvinistic sin and predestination opposed to romantic optimism, determinism opposed to free will, idealism versus materialism, European aristocracy opposed to democracy, capitalistic prosperity versus economic struggles. As the United States expanded, such dichotomies were complicated by tensions between long-settled areas in New England, the genteel South, the expansive plain states, and the wide open West. These contrary and interlocking forces created variety and cross-currents in American fiction. So the first flipped learning task that we're going to focus on is going to be based around the American dream. The concept of the American dream should be considered first and foremost as one that emerges out of and evolves from the Founding Fathers' invention of America. The United States of America, the Declaration of Independence in 1776 asserts, will be defined by the equality of all men and founded upon the provision of unalienable rights, such as the intangible and immeasurable pursuit of happiness. Such principles, though undoubtedly admirable, must be judged in terms of their political practicality and their historical realization. What was clear from the outset was that all men did not include all women, nor did it include all people of colour. Though, at its best, the Founding Fathers' dream, as manifested in the promises of the Declaration of Independence, provided a worthy ideal towards which modern America could and would aspire, the setting of such lofty and intangible goals could be said to invite failure and disappointment. The boundless imagination implicit in the Founding Fathers' Declaration translates easily into belief in the boundless potential of America's citizens to fulfill their individual American dream. Of course, for the many immigrants who arrived in America penniless and prospered from their labor and enterprise, the dream might well have seemed a reality. For those who did not prosper, it was not a dream that betrayed them, but the capitalism in which they placed their faith. So, your flipped learning task will involve the following. You're going to research the Declaration of Independence and consider its language carefully and in light of its political practicality. Next, you're going to consider the extent to which the American dream emanates from the promises of the Declaration. Third, think about how far the Founding Fathers' dreams, as they are stated in the Declaration, are either fulfilled or disappointed in the set text that you are studying. How far do your texts present the American dream as one capable of achievement, and how far might the American dream be said to be a damaging and dangerous illusion? The next flipped learning task will focus on the rise of the new woman. The closing decades of the 19th century and those which opened the 20th century gave rise to a unique social phenomenon, that of the new woman. The increase in educated and independent women who sought fulfillment beyond the bounds of marriage and motherhood was a cause for rejoicing amongst those women for whom traditional female roles amounted to a kind of gender enslavement. For others, both men and women, the new woman was a disturbing and socially divisive construct that went against nature and was bound to have dreadful repercussions in terms of women's physical and mental health, and most important, their fertility. The new woman emerged in Europe and America at around the same time. Your flipped learning task will include, firstly, find out as much as you can about the new woman as she emerges as a presence in American and European society. How and by whom was the new woman represented in European and American literature? What were the responses to this social phenomenon in society and literature? Next, you're going to consider the results of your research in light of the text you're studying. Does your research shed light upon the literary representation of women in the set text? The next flipped learning task will focus on white supremacy. White supremacy is the belief that white people are superior to people of other racial backgrounds. Now, this movement in America can be traced back to a period that predates the Civil War, between 1861 to 1865. The ideas put forward by proponents of this ideology persist throughout the historical period covered by the set text for this topic. Your flipped learning task will involve finding out as much as you can about white supremacy in America and the counter movements formed to oppose its racist agenda. Your research should include the Atlantic slave trade, the Jim Crow laws, the various waves of Ku Klux Klan activity, and the miscegenation laws. Secondly, think about how non-white people are represented in the text you are studying. Are non-white characters underrepresented in the novels you are studying? Are they absent from your text? Are they represented in stereotypical ways? And thirdly, find out about Black American authors, their works, and the themes and questions they raise. The next flipped learning task will focus on prohibition. Prohibition was introduced in America in 1920, enforcing a nationwide ban on the sale, production, import, and transportation of alcoholic beverages. There were a variety of motivations behind the introduction of prohibition. For your flipped learning task, you will be researching this topic, and you should consider the part played by social, political, and religious groupings in initiating and enforcing prohibition, The various social, moral, religious, economic and public health imperatives that underpin the drive for prohibition, bootlegging and speakeasies. And finally, the part prohibition played in the growth of organized crime, why prohibition legislation was withdrawn. For this flipped learning task, we're going to focus on the Wall Street crash and the Depression. Though the Wall Street crash did not take place until October 1929, there were signs that it was imminent as early as 1926. The crash and the Depression that followed it inflicted a severe blow upon the American people, the effects going far beyond the obvious financial consequences. Your flipped learning task will focus on researching this area, and when you are, you should consider the causes of the Depression, the effects of the crash upon the economy, the banking system, unemployment. You should also focus on the psychological effects of the crash on Americans' faith in capitalism and the country's status. Also research the Dust Bowl, Route 66, Okies migrant workers, and the effect of the Depression on employment. So the aim of the series of flipped learning tasks set in this video is to look at and to allow you to understand the development of American literature and its influences, the context and its impact, and the motivations of the writers in preparation for Unit 472, Component 2 for the OCR A-Level English Literature paper. We look forward to seeing your final outcomes, your presentation, when you're back in the classroom. Thank you.